Hi everyone, we're going to talk about knitting needles today. Just knitting, just straight needles, one-ended needles, and what choices I have in my knitting bag and why I distinguish between them. So first of all, we have wooden, bamboo, plastic and metal. My choice whenever I pick up the needles, if I can, is bamboo. And I'll tell you why in a minute. First of all, I have old-fashioned metal knitting needles here, and there's an odd one. I'm not sure why. So we have lovely sets of needles here. They belong to my grandmother, and I love the fact that they are different colours. It just obviously made knitting interesting when there wasn't much choice around. And that was pretty much it. Knitting needles were made of metal or wood. So we have metal ones. I would say I would move away from them. I was using them for a very long time, and then I started having problems in my wrist, and I realised after a bit of research that from using two needles, both of metal, and having them, I can even feel it now, having them knocked together like this, the vibrations actually goes through the fingers and into the wrist and the arm. So that has caused me problems in the past, and I would not go back to them personally. But some people like them because they're a good point. They do bend, but they're very unlikely to break, and they would last a lifetime. There's no denying that. So there you go, you have metal needles. Another option is plastic. You can get plastic ones in all shapes and sizes, and there is nothing wrong with a plastic knitting needle. I do not like knitting with plastic needles in the summer because they can get actually feel very sharp and painful in my hands if they get stuck, because my hands are a little bit sweaty. Again, I've got an odd one here. I don't know what's happening with me. These I've had since I was a child, and these were probably my very first knitting needles actually. And I keep them for sentimental reasons. I don't think I've actually used them in recent history. Plastic, there's nothing wrong with plastic. They're a good budget to start off, and they are very readily and easily available in all shapes, sizes and styles as well. So we have metal and plastic. The wooden ones, they can be relatively heavy. In that respect, they're not bad if you're doing a large project, such as a blanket, for example, because they're not going to bend, they're not going to snap as you're knitting. For a large project, I have these, and I can fit a decent amount of stitches on them if I squash them all up. I've definitely knitted a blanket, especially on these longer ones. Yeah, they're quite good. If you're knitting a small project, they're quite heavy and bulky, so I wouldn't go for them, but in their place, that's a good idea to use wooden knitting needles. Like I said, my favourite are bamboo, and the one problem I've had with bamboo knitting needles is I've actually had them go mouldy. They were sitting in the corner of the room. I was storing them while I was doing a longer project, and just a few of the pairs ended up going mouldy. I haven't replaced them. I've basically said if I need that needle for a particular project and I don't have it, then I will go out and buy it. But that actually hasn't happened yet, so I seem to be going fine without them. What I have noticed here with these, maybe you can see this, maybe you can't, is actually the dye from the wool has gone into the needle, which I don't think is a problem. It looks quite interesting. It's definitely not mould. I was knitting a dark blue cardigan, and the dye from the wool just went into the needle. So that's the thing. I have long ones and I have short ones. If I'm knitting a project and it's possible for me to get all of the needles on a short needle, all of the stitches on a short needle, I will use a short needle. I really like these. I'm not sure how long these are. Let me get my measuring tape out and I will tell you. There you go, that's 9 inches. And I do find that is just perfect for me. I really don't like, if I'm knitting, I can end up, especially if I'm using a longer needle, I can have the needle hitting me in the arm as I'm just moving through the stitches. So I prefer a short needle if it's at all possible. So that's it. We have a range of knitting needles here, and as I said, my favourites are the bamboo and my very favourites are the short bamboo. So let me know in the comments, what are your favourite knitting needles? Do you have a large range, or are you just going out to get your first needles, and what do you plan to get? Thank you for joining me and watching this video. You'll find lots more short videos on this YouTube channel, Knit with Hannah, and on my website, knitwithhannah.co.uk. You'll find e-courses there as well for knitters of all sorts of abilities. Do please share any questions or requests for videos in the comments below. You can also find me on Instagram and Facebook at Knit with Hannah, hashtag Knit with Hannah. I'd love to see what you're knitting at the moment, all of your latest photos of your knitting projects. Thanks very much for joining me. I'll see you soon, I hope.